Hi everyone, I'm here today with Aidan and Lauren, who are the founders of Diversity in Medical Academia.
Hi, thanks very much for inviting us. Hi all, I'm Aidan, a fellow medical student and one of the co-founders of DIMA.
So, you guys are doing really great things at the moment, and I'm sure everyone listening would like to hear about it. So, do you just want to kind of give an introduction as to what DIMA is, how it came to be, and how you guys are involved with it currently?
DIMA is a student-led organisation that's looking to get underrepresented groups involved in medical academia and research. So we primarily do this through events like free talks where we give advice from people who have extensive experience in research and academia. And we also have a podcast, which you should definitely check out, and post things on our social media, which is at DIMA Foundation. And we have some booklets and things like that with advice and guides. I don't know if Aidan has anything to add. Everything that we do is free and should be accessible to everyone. The whole point of it is to kind of get rid of the, I guess, exclusivity of research and make it something that everyone feels comfortable talking about and getting involved in. So that's kind of what we try to do.
Cool. I think the only thing I would add on to that is our ambassadors program that we have started, and that has allowed us not to just be a more of a national recognized organization, but more of on a global scale where we have students from outside of just the UK showing interest or attending our events and wanted to showcase DIMA, be part of DIMA through it.
I think that's great. And I think it's so important as well because research can be really overwhelming, I think, when people start thinking about it. And I think it's especially important to have people that look like yourself represented in research because I feel like it makes it feel a bit more attainable as well. So, what type of feedback have you got from students who are involved?
We've got very good feedback. I think at the moment what we're trying to do is get as many students as we can accessing our resources and stuff and increasing our reach as much as possible, because all of the students who do get involved tend to find it really helpful. I think we've only had really positive feedback, so that's really great. But yeah, we just want to kind of get it out there as much as possible so that as many people can benefit from it, because it is free. So like, hopefully even if you hate it, it's not going to cost you anything. You can always just leave our calls. But I think, yeah, even just to like, even if you don't really know what's going on in one of the calls, just to like be kind of involved in a, I guess, virtual space where people are discussing these things, just so that you become a bit more familiar with some of the terms and the concepts, I think can be quite helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like research can be quite confusing when you first start thinking about it. And I don't think a lot of students realise, you can get involved in research just by being a proofreader at the start to familiarise yourself. Because I know when I started medical school, my scientific writing was not great. And when I got my first feedback on my first piece of it, I was like, oh, I thought I'd written something really good here. And it can definitely be a little bit humbling. So, how do people access the talks that you give with DIMA?
So we've really emphasized on making sure everything is accessible, and for that, all of our talks are online, so that people anywhere, as long as they have access to the internet, are able to view it. For example, we're quite heavy on our social media, especially Instagram and LinkedIn, because professionally that's where the majority of the professionals are, and then where the students are. In, for example, in LinkedIn, we do try to post on a regular basis in where we have aimed to make sure that all of our posts for an event leading up to it has ample of time, so people who particularly need it, whatever the insights the event is showcasing, have the time and the space to be able to sign up to it. We usually use a QR code for getting the link onto our actual post itself, but we also use things like Linktree on our bio where we copy and paste the URL in itself, so people can use the link through it by just simply clicking on it. Otherwise, we try to make sure that it's as accessible as possible, so have as minimal barriers. So what we now do is have just a simple Microsoft form to showcase an interest of showcasing, I'm interested in to attend this event, to see how many numbers there are, and then to get their emails or contacts to promote any further events. And then from there, based on the forms that we get, we then we share our Teams link. We use Teams because majority of the students and even professionals know what Teams are. And we use the Teams platform for any of the video and live calls that we attend.
And just a question for me, because I'm interested. How has being involved with DIMA influenced both of your interests in research, and how has it helped you, if you have been involved in research or published anything at all?
I think for me, it's helped me just at least like make a start trying to access projects and like give things a go. I think before I was very reluctant to even like email anyone or chat to anyone about research, and I just felt like I was pestering people if I asked to get involved. So now, like, if I see something that sounds interesting to me, like, I feel a lot more comfortable, I guess, asking about it and getting involved. And I think also, I mean, a lot of the research I've got involved in is kind of incomplete and a bit all over the place. But I think also it's helped me to feel more comfortable like asking for help as well. Because I think when you start talking to people who are involved in research, you realise that there are lots of challenges, and no matter how far along you are in your research journey, you're going to have issues, and people are very willing to help you and talk through all of those challenges. So I think when I was in my first year, I started a research project, and it ended up just because it was a pandemic and like all of these, I didn't have the internet, and like all of these things happened, and I just freaked out and like stopped talking to my supervisor and kind of like cut everyone off because I was just like I was just panicked, which was obviously like not a great thing to do. And luckily I had a really good supervisor who like still checked up on me and made sure I was okay and like reassured me that it was fine. But I think like just realizing that, you know, if you're working with a supervisor or someone who's kind of further along in their journey than you are, that they're all really willing to help you and they're there to support you. So even if you do feel intimidated, like they've been in your position before. So I think for me, it's just, this is a bit of a kind of waffly answer, I guess, but for me, it's helped me, I guess, like feel more comfortable with the projects I'm doing. The projects I've been doing have been relating to mainly psychiatry, and I also do some stuff relating to decolonizing the medical curriculum. So it links quite a lot to, I guess, what you guys do. But yeah, like I said, a lot of the projects are kind of all over the place, which I think is fine. I think that's another thing that is important, is to realize that research takes time, and it's not like you don't wake up one day with like 5 publications, you know, like you have to kind of commit and do maybe little and often, but not to freak out if you're not seeing the progress that you were expecting. Yeah, I'll hand over to Odin.
For me, when we were first doing the live events, I was going with the student mentality that even though I'm hosting it, we've organized it, I'm still a student and I'm there to learn.
Yeah.
So the main benefit I've really gotten from there was I was learning along with all of the other attendees. One key thing that I wanted to share was the synergistic point of view for when it comes to research as well, which I somewhat shared before, is the 3=1 model, which was actually discussed in our very first live event that we did. And it's the idea that if you have published one article and it's really great and you're really proud of it, you can easily repurpose the same thing into a poster and then into a conference talk, and that's seen as 2 different further publicationable events, And that's even less of a work versus you having to then do a brand new research topic, go from the start. So I think it's just more so these type of tips and tricks that really gain the further confidence that I would have only been able to know if I have done it to begin with, which a lot of people who have starting university will actually either not have that in the mind of doing, or just would be a bit hesitant to do. So I think that was one of the crucial moments for me because I was able to gain those insights for me personally. I think that kind of helped in the research journey. And yeah, similar to Lauren, talking to supervisors or talking to professors, that was a lot, that became easier having gotten the experience to be able to reach out to professors and lecturers, starting with my own university and then building up from there. It got to the point where then instead professors and lecturers were reaching out to me saying, "Oh, that's really cool. Could you tell me more about it?" So it became to the idea that, oh, I'm really now ingrained into the research community, and I can then easily support other people who reach out to me saying, "Oh, could you help me with this research so and so?" And majority of the times, what I realize is I know a professor who has done research in the past within that similar topic, and that creates a further connection from there. So yeah, it's just again my long-winded response to that. The research that I've more predominantly focused on is with AI, or the use of machine learning, and kind of kept it with medicine. That has broadened to whatever the topic could be, because it could be for diabetes, genetics, and AI could easily be used for any of the subspecialties or super specialties as well. So yeah, I think it hugely depends on finding what your interests are. That's why having DIMA, especially, have giving the range of different topics from cardiology to even public health that we've been able to host, it invites the attendees to explore those things that they might not have initially thought about, and says, "Oh yeah, okay, that's an interesting topic. Let me actually explore that a bit further." And it was the same for me where when I started year one for medical school, AI or ML one that big of a thing. Even the publications only have been happening, but because I was able to get that exposure, I'm now more and more in tune in terms of, oh yeah, I like AI. I'm focusing more towards the research side of AI.
Yeah, definitely. I think AI is a very hot topic at the moment, so I'm sure you're doing some really interesting research into that. I think for me, still, it kind of all goes over my head a little bit, a lot of the AI things. But no, I think it's great, and you both raised really good points about the fact that all the people that you're reaching out to, they've been in your position. They've all been doing their first research paper at some point, regardless of how long ago that was. So they understand where you're coming from personally. And also the fact that a lot of people, if you reach out to them and you're kind in an email, they will want to help you. A lot of people do want to help. And obviously, occasionally you'll get the person who will just ignore you or say no. But it's always worth giving it a go, because, the worst answer you can get is a no at the end of the day, isn't it? And I imagine with DIMA as well, you've made some really good connections with lots of different researchers in different fields too, which is great. Because, like you said, it does open your eyes to things that you might not have even thought about before, which is great. Yeah, it's just so interesting to hear what you guys are doing and to see medical students doing it as well. Is really great, and to get to see you reaping the rewards of something that you're doing too. So, what is kind of your plan in the near future for DIMA? How do you plan on developing it?
I think hindsight is always 2020. So one thing after speaking to quite a few of the lecturers, I've realized is that DIMA, as it stands for Diversity in Medical Academia, is not just research. There's also other branches that fall under academia in its umbrella term. I think one of the key avenues that we need to then further on explore is how can we then further support the other branches. that come fall under academia and then find further support through it, because research in itself is such a broad topic that you can easily find parallels with other categories that fall under academia. The main one I'm thinking of is innovation, and predominantly after getting a publication, if people are really interested, they want to say, okay, how does that publication then take further effect from that point onwards? And that is one of the things that we actually want to explore, especially with the whole idea of medtech. And that's a huge market in itself, both for interest and uh, in terms of like the whole idea of progression that's happening. Furthermore, is something that I myself never really thought about as an undergraduate, is support for postgraduates, especially people who are doing PhDs. I was speaking to one of a potential speakers and how she was sharing her experience as an undergraduate student doing MBBS, and then having a family, having other increased responsibilities, doing a PhD, and how the pastoral support wasn't the best or the ideal for her while she was doing her research and scholarly activities. And that's just something that I never thought about, mainly because that it's if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So because I never really had or heard of anyone experiencing that, that's just something that we didn't really worth explore, which we need to. That's my um, long-term envision, I suppose.
No, I think that sounds great. I can't wait to see what you guys get up to, because, like you said, academia is so broad and it has so many different facets to it. One question that I do have for the both of you. So, obviously, it's really important that we are diversifying medical academia and medical education and medicine in general. And I think we are making good strides towards that. I don't think we're quite there yet when it comes to things like ethnicity, gender representation, and things like that. But one thing that I've found, particularly with research, is diversity of people from different backgrounds financially. Because I think a lot of people don't realise the cost that can be associated with research, because some journals charge really high fees to publish in their journals, and that can really narrow down where you can publish in. Obviously, some research comes with associated costs too. So, have you done anything with DIMA regarding that, or do you have any plans to?
I mean, yeah, I think that's definitely going to be something we're looking into. There's a lot of financial support available for people already. I think a lot of universities offer stuff, and there's also, external organisations that will support people, especially people from like widening participation backgrounds. So I think the thing is just increasing awareness of all of these schemes, because there's lots of people who want to kind of diversify medicine and research, but often like people just think about the prospect of PhD or higher education and assume that they're not going to be able to afford it, which is a valid concern because it has been so inaccessible for so long. But I do think that there has been, I mean, obviously I think there still can be a lot more, I guess, financial support, but there is a lot out there. And so I think something that we can definitely do is direct people to the existing support, and also see if we can partner, I guess, with any of those people and offer some opportunities to our following. But I think first we need to like upscale a bit, I think, before we'd be able to do those kind of partnerships. So that's more of a long-term thing. But definitely at the moment we can direct people to programs that they can apply for. And I think we also need to not just thinking about the financial barriers to research, but also just who's even doing medicine in the first place, or who's even at university in the first place. I think whenever we're in a space, we need to think about not only who's here, but who isn't here and why aren't they here. So I think something we need to also look at is engaging people from local communities and the kind of research that's just a lot of people do their own research that doesn't necessarily fall under kind of a higher institution or our conceptions of like valid research, and I think we need to engage with people who aren't necessarily educated through institutions but have their own forms of knowledge and are kind of doing research in different ways, and who might have kind of on the ground local experience that's actually really important to hear about. So yeah, that was a bit of a side note, but yeah, I think that the issue of funding is a huge barrier. I'd say it's probably like one of the main barriers, and it links into, you know, you talking about ethnicity and gender and all of these things, but all of the disparities often interlink. So yeah, I think trying to access the financial support that already exists might push us one step closer to getting more diverse people involved.
Yeah, definitely. I think the medical curriculum and overhauling it to be more diverse and more inclusive. Like I said, there's so many different aspects to it that we have to address. We have to address who's in leadership positions, who's in, you know, lecturer positions, who are professors, who are our doctors, who are the ones doing research. And I think a lot of that starts even before people get to medical school, and maybe not even in sixth form. It starts way before that. So I was wondering, have you guys had much engagement from kind of pre-university students with DIMA at all? Are you seeing an increase in that as well, if you are getting any engagement from kind of sixth formers or before that, or people at college?
I would say most of our engagement is people at university. I think mainly because I know when I was in school, I didn't even realize that research was really like a thing that
Yeah.
medical people do.
No,
Even when I was
definitely.
applying and I was researching medicine all day, like I didn't realize that that was something that I could do when I came to medical school. So I think we can definitely have a look at like doing some outreach, I think, and talking to schools. And I think it's really important to actually show the kind of variation within a career in medicine or science, you know, and about how like you can have a clinical career, you can have a research career, you can have a teaching career. There's all of these different things that you can do. I think especially with medicine, people have a very specific idea about what that means to be a doctor, and it's very clinical oriented idea. But actually, most doctors don't just, you know, do clinical work. So yeah, I think at the moment we haven't had too much. I don't know, Aidan, if you've had people getting involved from younger years, which is yeah a shame. Like I think it would be great to reach that audience. I think, you know, the earlier you hear about research and start thinking about it, the better, and then, you know, you can be empowered when you do go to, or if you do go to university or pursue higher education, at least you have that in mind as something that you can do. I mean, you don't even have to do higher education to do research. The whole point is like, you know, anyone can do it, and people can definitely do research earlier on if they're in sixth form and stuff. There's nothing stopping them from also getting involved in their own projects. I know a lot of people do like EPQs and that kind of thing, and I think that's a
Yeah.
great start to like start thinking about you know, academic writing and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that we want. Like we really encourage anyone younger to reach out to us.
I was just going to say that not just research. I think there's other areas within medicine that anyone can explore, which Lauren has somewhat highlighted as well. Teaching is one of them, which, I mean, funny enough, falls under academia. Innovation is also the other. And what I've seen is, unfortunately, outside of all the financial things, are, you know, the stigma around medicine being hard to get into. Of course, it is challenging compared to other courses, but what I've seen is a lot of people in sixth form have deterred away mainly because, oh, medicine is too clinical. But I've seen other things like, oh, there's nothing regarding AI or medically related devices that they might be more into. And that's if that's the only reason as to why they're deterring away from medicine. I think that's kind of an unfortunate thing, which there needs to be more awareness about, that people, medical doctors, can get into these type of avenues, even with medicine, if not better with medicine, mainly because they get valued for the medical degree that they've graduated with. So yeah, I think that's really something that's worth exploring or raising awareness for.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're seeing a big rise in medical student mentoring as well with sixth form and college students, which I think is great. And it's important to have people like yourselves, medical students like yourselves, doing these really amazing things for students to think that they're attainable. And I think that's why it's important to have students involved in research too, because, younger down and then it trickles down into our sixth form students and even before that, because like you said, medicine is really, really, really diverse as a career. There's so many different things that you can do in medicine. You can do roles in medicine, go to medical school for 5 years and then never speak to a patient again. You can do so many different things within it. Teaching, education, if you like doing those sorts of things. There's so many different ways to engage with and show your interest. And yeah, I didn't know when I was applying that a lot of doctors do research in what they're interested in. And I didn't know, for example, a career in GP, how broad that can be and what different things you can do with that and roles that you can have at university. And I think now as well, with kind of the way the workforce is at the moment, and we see a lot of people going abroad and leaving the UK as medics, those transferable skills are really important as well. So being able to research, not just good for the portfolio, it's a good skill to have wherever you go, and it's a good skill to be able to critically appraise texts and read them and understand things for your own knowledge, to have conversations with people and engage with people from other careers. So I do think it's really important, and a lot of students are definitely put off doing research because I think they're overwhelmed or they're worried or they think they're not good enough or they're not capable, but that's definitely not the case. And I think you guys are showing that, which is fantastic. So probably my final question, and it's to both of you, so you can both give me an answer. What advice would you give to a first year medical student now who's listening to this podcast and maybe thinking about a career in research or just getting involved in research? What would you say to them? Or academia in general, I suppose.
I think my advice would be just to get stuck in. I think a lot of people put off getting involved. They're like, oh, when I'm older, I'll be ready. Or like, I don't think it's something you'll ever really feel ready to get. I don't know, maybe some people do, but I definitely still don't really feel like ready to get involved in research. But I think you've just got to go for it and talk to as many people as you can, even if it's just whoever's giving the first lecture of the year, like go and tell them it's something you're thinking about. I think making connections with older students as well is really, really helpful. Not just for kind of academia and research based opportunities, but also just generally like for advice and mentorship. I think medicine or whatever degree you're doing, like can be very overwhelming. I think the jump from school to higher education is huge. And I think having people who've been through the same thing as you or a similar thing and just being able to exchange your experiences is really helpful. So I think just getting a good support network and also looking after yourself. Like at the end of the day, like no publication or a poster is worth like being miserable and not enjoying university, like take it easy. It doesn't matter if you never do any research, and it doesn't matter if you do 10 billion papers by the time you graduate, like at the end of the day, the focus has to be on you. And like if you're going to do research, do it because you're interested and because you want to develop those skills. Don't just do it for like the sake of it, because I think it becomes such a chore and it can make you super miserable. And the demands of the course are big enough that, especially like as you're getting into older years as well, like I don't think it's worth it. So as much as I encourage everyone to get involved, I think also don't do it at the expense of your like well-being and your enjoyment of uni. Don't prioritize research over going out with your friends or whatever. Yeah, that would be my advice.
For me, it would be understanding the value of research. What I mean by that is, yeah, you might be interested in research or you might be interested in academia, but what value would that have then further on after you graduate? And that's me particularly emphasizing on the idea of, there's lots of, such as the AFP or the SCP, that's now been coined the term the specialized foundation programs, where a lot of people, even in fourth years or potentially fifth years, don't know that this exists, where you can be a bit more of a specialized program, either in academia or in management or in research. And for example, I know someone in year 5 who wanted to get into the specialized program within the academia arts, the teaching route. And I'm not going to say which university it was, but the university was telling them, preparing a lecture for that specialized program, saying that, oh, you don't need research for that route, whereas it's only for the research route that you need to have publications out of it. She was doing the application for it, only to then realize that you need a minimum of 4 publications to even get into the academia route. So it's more so like having that importance that, oh, okay, yeah, I'm interested in it, but this is what it's going to lead up to. The points that's going to take are further down the line, mainly because not just now, obviously it's going to be further multiple years, but once you become a registrar, having a publication in first year or second year or third year is not going to expire if you're a registrar. So they all are going to slowly lead up to it. So it's just more so the idea that it's a marathon rather than a sprint. So there's no reason to set any sort of goals or anything of that sort, that by the end of first year I need 5 or so many publications done or out of the way. Even if you get like 1 publication by the end of first year, that's more than enough for what you have done. If not, then that's fine, because all of the work is already there. You can have second year, let's say, in a fresh start, which potentially will have less work in comparison to the middle of the year. So you can focus on that then. So I think it's making sure that you have everything of that sort planned out well, at the same time prioritizing the other things that you actually enjoy. Again, resonating with what Lauren said. So yeah, it's just things like that where they add up slowly over time, and soon enough they actually will then start paying off once you graduate and start using them for your applications.
Yeah, I think what you both said is really important, that don't just do research for research's sake, do it because it's something that you enjoy and it's something that you genuinely want to do, rather than just doing it for the sake of it, because you do want to enjoy your time at medical school, because before you know it you'll be out and you'll be working and you won't have as much free time and you won't be with all your friends like you have been at medical school. So it's really important to enjoy all of that too, definitely. Yeah, I think that's really great. So thank you both for saying that. A final thing before we say goodbye, do you guys just want to, I think you said it earlier as well, but just tell everyone how to find DIMA and yourselves on social media, and how to get in touch with you and start going to your wonderful events?
Yeah, so we're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. We have a Facebook. I don't know how active it is. We're on YouTube as well. We record and upload our lectures on there. And our handle is at DIMA Foundation. So DIMA Foundation. And then if you type up either of our names, you should be able to find us, hopefully. And you can always drop us a personal message and we'll come back to you. And yeah, we're on Spotify. Our podcast is on Spotify. Yeah.
Hey, that's great. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been lovely to speak to you both.